Welcome to the Other 99% podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Duck, a coffee-loving direct sales enthusiast who's obsessed with a good digital system. Come join me for a realistic look into the world of direct sales. We'll explore inspiring perspectives, learn about unique business tips, and celebrate success stories that often go untold. Because on the Other 99%, every seller matters. Hey everyone, it is me, Lisa, and welcome back to another episode of The Other 99%. I am so excited to be here with my friend Gretchen, and I actually met Gretchen for the first time last year in Montreal, I think, wasn't it? Or did I? I may have met you before, but it was a very quick passing or something. But yeah, so Gretchen, I'd love for you to come in and introduce yourself, tell the listeners who you are, what you do, and all that stuff.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is actually being like one of my bucket list items is to actually be on a podcast. So when you asked me, I was so excited, so
Awesome.
honored. And I do believe we met in person in Montreal, but I think you feel like you knew me before because we had so many candid conversations before, like on the phone.
Probably. Yeah, I couldn't remember if I met you in Victoria in one of the conferences there, possibly, but I mean, it would have been just passing for sure. But yeah, so tell us, what do you do for fun? Like who is Gretchen? Give us all the details.
Okay, well, I definitely am a busy mom. I live in Victoria, BC, and I currently work full time with BC Pensions. And then my other full time gig is Epicure. And I used to be working in the long term care industry, but I left that. I still once in a while fill in, but I'm hoping to kind of let that go pretty soon. But yes, that keeps me busy. Then you add a household, a house, a husband, two daughters. They're now 16 and 20, having
Mhm.
birthdays a little later this year, and then fur babies. So, so it is a busy, full life, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Awesome. Yeah, you sound like a busy lady, and I know when we're talking, it's like, "Oh, I don't really know how you do it all, but I'm sure you're going to share a little bit of that in today's episode. So that's awesome. All right. So tell us, because I always want to know, how did you find direct sales? Like what made you start in the direct sales field?
Well, I actually didn't really go to too many parties, but the one that I was going to, and that was the company that I'm with, Epicure. Uh, they were, pretty young when I started going to their parties, so that was all in person. And just love the model of sharing food and drinks with friends. My It was actually one of my good friends who always was the host. And then several years later, my cousin hosted, because we always called them parties back then,
Mm-hmm.
a party. And there was a lovely leader there. And my daughters at the time were 4 and 8. And I was looking, I was pretty much a stay-at-home mom. I did little part-time things, but I was looking for another way to earn income, but that it was really important for me to be with my daughters, taking them to their activities, taking them, being there, like to take them to school and pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
And so direct sales really appealed to me in the beginning for this reason.
And how long have you been with Epicure?
So I actually had to do the math because I had a feeling you'd ask this question today. 13 years already.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I'll be
Yeah.
14 in the fall. So I mean, we probably started close to the same time, which is kind of
Yes.
crazy. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know that we all do our businesses differently. Like, I mean, we have our in-person people, we have our virtual people. How do you find that you work your business and what's most successful for you?
Well, in the beginning, I'm sorry because it keeps changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to kind of give you my journey a little bit. So in the beginning, really the model for direct sales was like in-person parties or, doing markets. So that's how I started out. And then with COVID happening, I had to pivot, had no idea how to do online. Oh my gosh, if I could have showed you that first online party, it was on Facebook. It was hilarious. But the thing is that, to have the courage to try these new things and go for it. So I spent so much time doing the Facebook parties and actually got really good at it. And now it's everything. Basically, my goal is what matches for my customer. Now, for some people, they might only really be able to do online because that's where they're at in their life. Now that my daughters are a bit more flexible, I love doing an in-person. I just had an in-person event yesterday and it's so fabulous. And everybody was so happy to be there. But really, I just kind of strive to cater to what my customer or host wants and work it that way.
I love that because in the end, the customer is always right? We always hear that. So definitely if somebody is looking for an in-person option, it's in your best interest and their best interest to give them what they're looking for. Right. So definitely, I love the fact that you are very flexible and willing to do all parts of the direct sales journey is what I call it right now, because there are so many different ways that we can work this business. And some of us excel in certain areas, but that doesn't mean that we turn off the option to do certain things. Right. And I love that you're keeping that open and flexible for sure. All right. So I want to dig in. I want to get a little bit into Gretchen right now. I want to know what you're most proud of in your direct sales business.
Well, I think that it's actually, and it kind of ties into what we just were talking about, and that's like me being adaptable. Because I do feel that, especially in this business, maybe in so many businesses, things are changing and they change fast, right? And it can be like hard to catch up. But I try to just tackle what I really feel is doable, and then I'm okay to kind of push myself out of my comfort zone and learn something new, and it's really fun. It ends up being fun, but the best reward is that, like, it's often very scary for me and intimidating, but then when I actually go through that process, then I feel so good about myself, and I've grown again, gained a new skill. And that's another reason why I love direct sales so much, is that the personal growth that you go through is really incredible.
Yeah.
If you're able to get out of the kind of the safe zone. I actually did have a good quote. Okay, here's the quote. One can choose to go back towards safety or forwards towards growth. So that's kind of one of the things that I have in mind and have put up in my office to kind of get me out of the safety zone sometimes.
Now I'm going to dive in a little deeper because I know you had a fantastic journey from ambassador to leader, and I want you to share just a little bit about your achievements since becoming a leader and how did that come along? Because I know you did get some great achievements along the way there, right?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking about that one. Well, again, I have to kind of rewind the tape again, but I started, like I said, in 2011 to make it the 13 years, and was ambassador for actually nine years before I became leader. And I, as I was going along, I worked the business. So it kind of went around my kids' schedule. Then they got super busy in competitive dance, and I kind of had to take a bit of a back seat, but I did keep my, customer base to keep going. And then basically, I think it was right around COVID. I can't remember if it was before or a little after, but I decided that I wanted to become leader. And I thought, okay, this is such a long shot because most people in the industry, right? They start out, they go full force, then they're like leader, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
how there's not very many of us that kind of, work the business the way that it worked well for our family, kind of stayed at the ambassador or consultant level, or and then promoted much, much later to leader. But I thought,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, let's just set this goal. But kind of, I in the back of my mind, I'm like, can I really do it? Kind of doubting myself. And it wasn't an overnight thing by any means. I had to work, quite hard, I will be honest, but just kept being consistent, kept at it. And so that started in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2023, the fall of 2023, in September, actually, I was homesick from work. And I was looking at the stats because I had been at this executive or ambassador level, that's right before leader, for quite
Mm-hmm.
some time. And I'm like, I have this many people on my team. I'm like this many sales. Why don't I try for this? And for the 2 days that I was not well, but well enough, I guess, to use my phone and everything.
Yeah.
And the support of my great leader, I was able to do it, and I have hit leadership every month since.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I know that you actually achieved a special incentive trip because of that as well. So
Yes, I did. I was able to, well, I'm in the hometown of our home office, but it was very, very special. It was really special. And yeah, and that was another great achievement. And a few times I've also hit top in sales growth. So I was honored an award last year in Montreal for that. And that was unexpected.
yeah.
I just remember sitting there and they were rolling people's names on the screen, and my husband actually came with me to this conference, and all of a sudden he's nudging me like, look, 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 and I'm kind of clueless, and there I was. And so yeah, that was a lot of fun and unexpected. And that's another great reason to be in direct sales, is just the recognition that you get, and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily need to be a huge thing.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Well, congratulations on all that you've accomplished. All right. So I want to know, because I'm a big believer that everybody has like a superpower, something that they're really good at in their business. So what's Gretchen's superpower?
So I feel that it's my ability to talk with all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life, if that's the right term to use, and listening to their story, like asking them questions about themselves. It might even not necessarily be, anything to do with Epicure, but then that already starts like a connection. And so for me, my customers, like many of them, I have to say, are, like almost basically friends.
Mm-hmm.
So, and making that strong connection. So, whether I'm at a market, I'll really take the time to talk with the person, get to know them a little bit, and then that way I'm able to come from a place of service, and that connection means a lot, right? And then from there, it kind of expands and grows, and often they become hosts or down the road team members.
Yeah. Now, as you're talking, it's funny because I'm scrolling my Audible app because your story reminded me of a book that I was listening to on Audible, and it's called How You Leave Them Feeling. Right? I mean, it's all about how you leave them feeling. And the author is Mr. Jesse Farrell, Ferrell. But it is definitely a good read for anybody in the sales industry because it's all about how we leave them feeling. We want to make them feel better about themselves, after we spoke to them. So I absolutely love that you shared that and can definitely see that you do. Like, I mean, you love to talk to people.
Well, and it's so interesting that you say that, because also one of my mentors in life is Maya Angelou. And my
Yeah.
favorite quote from her is, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will not forget how you made them feel.
So true.
And so you give me goosebumps when you talk about that book. I need to read that book now because
Well, that was funny because my next question was going to be like, what's the one quote that you think everybody should, hear to help them succeed in their direct sales business? And there you go. I mean, there you go. That's a perfect quote because it's so true. Like the way that you leave people feeling, if they're feeling good about themselves after talking to you, they're going to come back for more, so
yeah,
they're
yeah.
going to be around. So I absolutely love that you shared that quote too. And it was so funny because as you were saying it, I was getting goosebumps. So it's like one of those things, but
We're
anyway,
having a moment.
yeah, exactly. All right, Gretchen. So I want to know, how can people find you if they wanted to jump into your DMs or PMs and chit chat with you? How can they find you?
Well, you can find me in my Facebook group, which is simply Epic Good Food with Gretchen. I'm also on Instagram at gretchen.ann with no e.crane, like the
Mhm.
bird. But I'm working on some other things actually with your Digitally Direct company, and I'm
Yeah.
so excited about that. So there'll be more ways to connect with me down the road.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll make sure that we get those in the show notes so that people can click on the links and find you. But I just wanted to thank you so much for doing this. I know that you were super nervous, but you did amazing. And I'm sure there are going to be tons of takeaways from this episode when people listen to it. So thank you so much for joining us, Gretchen.
Oh, thank you so much.
And everybody, I want to thank you for listening to another episode of The Other 99%. And we will see you again on the next episode. Take care. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you would take a minute to rate and review the podcast, I would absolutely love it. And if you know someone who really needs to hear this podcast, please feel free to share it with them. More listeners, the better. And if you know someone who would like to be a guest on the podcast, or you yourself would like to be a guest, be sure to check the link in the show notes or visit lisaduck.com and click Be a Guest. We'll talk to you soon.